All right, we are here at the 2025 Public Policy Day. I'm here with Adam Marburger, President and CEO of Ascent Dealer Services, and the one and only, needs no introduction, but I'll give him one anyway, Jim Ganther, CEO of Mosaic Compliance. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Happy to be here.
Thanks for having us.
And thank you so much for helping us get all this happen. This feels like ESPN Game Day. It's very exciting to just be back at Public Policy Day. We had our first visit to Public Policy Day last year to just check it out. And one of the things that really got us excited was the fact this is the place where people are talking about policy decisions, and we felt there was just a gap where the voice of the dealer, the voice of the consumer, maybe could be represented a little bit more strongly. Dealers, as we know, have millions of interactions every single day with the consumer. And so we thought it'd be great to come back here, bring the community that we've gathered around ASOTU and More Than Cars, and bring that mindset in here. So I would like to just, maybe we'll toss it around a little bit, talk about what's going on right now in policy, what dealers are saying, and maybe a little bit of what we expect and what our hopes are for 2025. Adam, I'll start with you.
Yeah, well, I'll say right now, dealers are saying they're singing and dancing right now, right?
A little bit, yes.
We're really happy, and me being in the F&I space, margin compression is a real thing. We're going to sell more cars this year, but unfortunately, these front-end grosses aren't going to be what they were.
Right.
So we've got to sell more F&I products, and the fact that we have great F&I products is an honor and a privilege, and we need to be able to still deliver these products to dealers. And these products have a lot of value. They have a lot of value to the retail customer, but they also weld them back to the dealership from a retention standpoint. So I'm honored and privileged, to be here, but I'm excited that rule got vacated and we can go back to doing business as normal.
So tell me, in the F&I space, why are you paying so much attention to Public Policy Day? Like, why is this a good place for you to spend your time and invest?
Here, I'm a recovering F&I manager, 17 years. 20 years in automotive, and I'm here on the behalf of the dealer body. I just believe in our industry so much, and had a conversation with Jim. He said, "Here, you should be involved in this." And it was a real simple. But when he tells me to do something, I
was going to say, when Jim says something,
I kind of do it.
Some people listen.
Yeah.
Maybe not his wife.
So I'm here on behalf of the dealer body, just in general, from a broad term, because this is what I love, and this is my life.
Very nice. So, Jim, second Public Policy Day. Yeah. We tricked you again to coming back. Why'd you make the trip and invest in this?
Well, for one thing, last year was amazing. I mean, I felt like I was right on the spot when history was being made. It wasn't necessarily made
right, that
here.
was an important day. Mike Stan came in and he whispered in our ears and say, "Hey,
we just got the stay of the cars rule, which was fantastic. It lit the place up.
Yeah.
And little did we know that 12 months later, we'd be back right in the wake of Monday's vacation of that rule. And Adam mentioned how important F&I products are, and that's not the only thing impacted by the cars rule, but it was one of the things that was impacted very, very severely. If you read the rule carefully, you realize that it's going to make it very difficult to sell F&I products because what are labeled as transparent disclosures are a number of speed bumps on that road to the sale where you don't want to buy this, do you? Let me show you how much this is going to cost.
Right.
Let's get a TILA box for every F&I product. Can you imagine how long closing a deal is going to take? Disaster. And I'll end with this point. I had tickets to fly to New Orleans for the oral argument on the 9th of October. Hurricane Milton had other plans, so I listened to it live and listened to the recording the next week, but I couldn't fly there. That's not important in the grand scheme of things. What is important is for the first time ever, just off the coast of Tampa, Florida, 150 yards from downtown, is a man-made island called Davis Island. Technically, Davis Islands, there's two of them. Very desirable neighborhood. It's like a small town anchored just off the coast of downtown Tampa. For the first time ever, it totally flooded. It was completely underwater. All you could see were the houses, and all the roads looked like rivers. Every single car on Davis Island was totaled. The Teslas burst into unquenchable flames and burned down.
Remember that? Yeah.
Yeah. But how many people on that island needed GAP? And you know what? If the cars rule had passed as originally published, and this hurricane happened a year later, people wouldn't have bought GAP. And it's a valuable product. Why does the government hate F&I products? I hope that the new administration does not.
So, Adam, I think we can lump in, there's obviously a stigma that happens in culture. One of the reasons we work so hard to do what we do and get the true stories out there. There's a stigma with dealers. There's a stigma with the F&I office and these products. Why do you think people see them? Like, why do you think that leaning is there of people looking at F&I and what's happening in the office, and some people in the government looking at it saying like, oh, there's bad stuff there. We need to like put a stanchion around that and say, this is a bad place. Like, why do you think we even got to that point?
That's a great question. So first and foremost, the way we are operating our F&I offices today are much different than we were doing it 15, 20 years ago. So, back in the day, there were some bad apples out there, people not doing things the right way. But as an industry, we've been really moving forward without the help of the government, with transparency, doing the right thing, serving people, loving people, giving people all of their options, being over transparent with those options. Here's what I know to be fact. Consumers actually want to purchase F&I products. They absolutely want to purchase them. They don't want to be sold F&I products. So we have to be able to engage with our customers and give them all of their options in a transparent manner. See, I just think that we got a bad name from the way we used to practice years ago, and it's just we're in a much better place and we're heading in the right direction. It's taken some time. It took a long time, and now it's getting a little bit easier. We're more trusted.
Yeah.
We're more consultative in our approach, and not so much closing the door, sign 3 copies type stuff, right? Well, things are changing.
Give us, for the people who don't know you, just give us the quick story of like how you got in the industry, like why you're here on the stage today. Like, give us the little journey.
Accident. I was cooking at a restaurant. Thought I was gonna be a chef.
I could see that.
Went on vacation, came home. The owner of the restaurant goes, I have good news and bad news. I go, just give me the bad. He goes, we're closing the restaurant. I go, what's the good? He goes, you're gonna be a car salesman. I said, what? 1999. I'm like, I'm not selling cars. So I went to the dealership, a Toyota store near St. Louis, and I asked to go back into service first. I was like, hey, let me clean cars. So I did that for 90 days, became friends with all the salespeople, ended up going out with all the guys after work, became one of them, and I got sucked in at 19. It was right when I turned 19 and haven't looked back. And I got into F&I in 2002. Retired from retail in 2017 and went out. I was impacting a few stores in St. Louis, but I wanted to impact as many as I possibly could. So that's why I went out on my own. So.
And now give us a little scope of your operation.
Yeah, so we've become one of the most relevant F&I providers. We work with prestigious OEMs. We're in thousands of stores across the country, and I've got a team of people that are better than me. So I've got a wonderful team of people that work very, very hard, and by proxy, we built a wonderful company.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah.
Jim, give us a little background of yours. Our audience is more familiar with you, but I still think we could use a little refresher.
I was born at a very early age.
It was a dark and stormy night, and I was charging through.
And then the earth cooled. I get born, I go to law school, I practice here in Washington, D.C., and I've always been a policy geek. I mean, I was a Senate page in high school, did a number of internships on Capitol Hill.
Boy, I wish there was a documentary on that phase of your life.
I could tell you stories, but I won't. My answers tend to be overly long. So got into law school, got out of law school, worked in D.C. doing government contract law, which is very much based on regulations and their interpretation. So from there to car law was very much a lateral career move because I'm used to having my head in the Federal Register and how does that impact business clients. But after 15 years of private practice, I had moved out of DC and I really had a tough time being a good husband and dad and being a good attorney in private practice at the same time because when you sell hours, they don't scale.
Yeah.
So a car dealer group was one of my clients, and they developed, I would say, the best organic compliance program in the country.
And he said, what are the chances of a guy like me and a girl like you? Right?
And we wound up, another attorney, Robert Schimberg, and I started Mosaic in 2006 to take what we had learned from the Furman Motor Car Company. Been selling cars since 1895. And these are the good guys. And literally, just before I came on stage with you, I got a text, and it was a friend of mine in Tampa, Florida, saying, I'm dealing with Furman. Here's the deal. Here's the VIN. I just want you to confirm I'm not getting ripped off. Talk about reputation, the stigma. And my response is, you're buying from Furman.
You're not getting ripped off.
You're not getting ripped off. You're buying from Furman. And there's so many good guys in the industry like that, and we need to tell their stories.
Amen.
If only someone would do a documentary like Inside the Dealership.
Somebody writing this down?
More than cars.
All right, the closing question, I'll start with you, and we'd like to end with you, Adam. What do you see in 2025 now that we're in this spot where the cars rule has been vacated? What should the mindset of dealers be moving into 2025?
From where I sit, the message should be the dealership community and the car buying public dodged a bullet, but you can't sleep. You can't take anything for granted. You should be here, or people that you're close to should be here to hear what is coming so you can prepare for it and, if possible, impact the course of public policy. You got to be here at its conception so that you can impact it down the road.
Formation of it. Adam, same question to you.
Yep.
What mindset, now that there's been this, it's been vacated, but there's still a lot of attention on it, how are you advising your dealers to approach F&I into 2025?
So there's two parts to that. We're going to embrace F&I more than we've ever had. More training, more support. We need to sell more F&I products because we need that. We need to make that gross profit. But allude off to what Mr. Ganther just said is we can't fall asleep. Just because the cars rule is vacated, we still got to do our due diligence. We got to dot our I's, cross our T's, have processes in place, make sure that we're uber compliant. We can't just, we're not going to just go Wild West and go back to 1999, right? So we're going to move forward, do the right things, serve people, but process is important. Compliance is a focal point. We just can't ever forget about that.
There's something to be said when you're doing the work off season and you're building relationships and inroads with consumer transparency, with the communities you're in. When things come up, people tend to get your back. And whenever the FTC puts a request out and says, hey, what do you think of car dealers? That's going to show how much work we've been doing in the community, whether or not we can mobilize the people who understand what we're really about. One last thing, I said that was the last, but you just released a new book.
Yes.
Tell us the title and what it's about.
Yeah, Servant Leading F&I Manager. This book's...
Servant Leading F&I Manager.
Servant Leading F&I
Manager. That feels
like
an oxymoron in some people's minds.
It is, but I believe that the F&I manager has a critical role, and we don't train F&I historically on retention. So it's about... The whole job, F&I, is obviously compliance first and foremost, but it's to get the customer happily engaged in service. And if service does what they do, that customer comes back. So we don't really think about treating F&I managers as servant leaders and loving on people and leaving great impressions. So that book, there's practical advice. I've got advice from the greats. I've got some other folks in the book too that shared some great information. But then there's a lot of objection handling and doing things the right way with a servant leading heart, putting the consumer first. So the book's great. Obviously, I'm a little biased, but I wrote it into sections, and there's a lot of value in it.
Well, awesome. Adam, Jim, thank you so much for joining us today and just being forces for good inside the industry, helping to guide and lead dealers and consumers as well. That does it for our first live stream. We are going to be here all day recording podcasts. We're going to be on the main stage in there. So stay tuned to ASOTU on LinkedIn specifically, and we're going to bring all of this to you throughout